Jake, really appreciate the time to today. This morning, you guys close to getting back at it. First practice in about a dozen days or so. School getting in session. You were getting used to Oxford with tons of students here. Finally, the traffic picks up. All the stuff sort of changes. We get the town a little bit in the summer for the locals, but then once school kicks in, you're done, and everything takes a little longer to get here and there. But just in general, how's it been in Oxford so far?
No, it's been amazing, Chase. The people so far that I've been around every day have been nothing but helpful. Made me feel like home as best as I can so far. Obviously, coming from Starkville, it's a very interesting time to come to Oxford.
Hmm.
But you're right. I've gotten used to the square being pretty open and available with the restaurants and shops, and I have to get my head around that maybe not being as easy with all the kids coming in soon. But I'm excited for my guys to come in soon and get to work with them.
I see you guys. Obviously, your Ole Miss gear on right there. What'd you do with all the maroon swag over the last few years? Where does it go? Do we give it away? What do we do?
That was 6 years worth of it. There's a lot. I give a lot. I've made a lot of friends in Starkville. There's some cool gear that I gave to some people there, and my parents wanted a couple things to keep as well, but a lot of friends and family keep some of that. But you're right. It's all Nike and Ole Miss now. Don't worry.
So, for any of our listeners who haven't followed tennis as closely, you guys, the main seasons are in the spring. You and I were just discussing this for a second right before we started, but sort of lay out the calendar for me a little bit because it is year round, even though obviously your main matches are in the fall or in the spring leading up to all the postseason stuff.
So the summers they'll go home and they'll be training and playing a lot of low level pro tournaments on their own.
Hmm.
We're the type of program that's recruiting the best possible from around the globe. And so it is truly a year round 12-month type of deal for them because they want to do this long term. And so in the fall when they're here, it's like a big time hard training block where you also play between 4 and 6 tournaments, a mix of the highest level college events and also those entry level professional events to gain that exposure, that experience, but also help them try to develop their ranking continually, um, leading into, like you said, the more important time, which is the spring team season, where that's where we're playing, the SEC gauntlet. We're playing a good non-conference schedule, and it's the traditional Ole Miss versus another program, another
Okay, yeah.
university dual match style format.
Not to give away too much specifics, but in general, when do you sort of get the guys here? How does that process play out, especially with your newcomers? You've added three very talented players over the course of your tenure so far.
Yeah, so I try to get them here at least a few days before school starts. They've got to get back on this time zone. I
Yeah.
was just in Europe myself, and the jet lag is real. The time zone difference is real. But honestly, I want these guys to get to know each other as fast as possible. Like I said, the you mentioned, excuse me, the three newcomers, working through their visas to get them here as soon as possible on time, get them attributed to what going to class, being with time management, being on the court a lot, and becoming a brotherhood and a family with these guys is really important so that there's a new team culture, there's a new
Yeah.
vibe here with the new coaching staff, and you know the previous coaching staff have been here a good while, and so the 7 returners are going to be almost like freshmen again because of some changes that are going to be here and the new culture and standards we're going to have. So they're hopefully all going to be here by the time school starts. I know the returners will be, but the newcomers, we're getting their visas going. We're working through it.
It's a lot like golf, as in I know you have doubles and singles, but while it's such an individual sport in so many ways, there is a lot about being on the team and the bonding, the chemistry in some ways. How do you sort of see that as far as the need and the positives when you have a really close knit team and the advantages to that, even though it is a pretty individual sport?
Your comparison to golf is perfect, Chase. It's and I love playing golf too myself, and I'm
Yeah,
already close with Chris Malloy, and
yeah,
Corey's
yeah.
great too. So it's because you're playing for something bigger than yourself, and you're playing for the emblem on your chest. You're playing for the guys next to you, and when they go home in the summers, a lot of them sometimes they're kind of sad the first few weeks because they don't have their boys to train with, and they don't
Hmm.
get to travel with their guys, the fellow rebs, and compete with them and cry, laugh, bleed with them, sweat with them, and that's when they come back. They're so excited about that because it's bigger than just you. And that's why that's so important, because if you don't embody that energy and that type of culture, you're leaving a lot of things to the wayside that you're not taking advantage of. And the best teams do that the best. And when the margins are this close in the SEC and in the country, and the teams that are trying to really succeed, you have to be controlling that as best as possible.
I know we're pretty familiar, but in general, what did you sort of know about this Ole Miss program when the job comes open and it becomes a possibility? It's got a lot of history, got a lot of interest over the years, and has had decades at times where it's been one of the top programs inside the SEC. So where was your sort of mindset on its positives, or what was the potential here when you were considering this position?
Yeah, like, so being in state for 6 years, I've seen kind of the Sweet 16, almost Elite Eight level of this program, and I've seen what
Hmm.
the last 2 years have been. And I've honestly, before the job even came open, I thought about like, why has that happened? And in the interview process, meeting with Keith and Wesley and Jennifer and everybody, it was clear that the last couple of years weren't to standard, and
Hmm.
with the resources that are here, there's no reason why we shouldn't, there's a process to it, but get back to where we're competing in the SEC at the highest level again. No program in the SEC, which has the best resources in the country, should be, perennially down. And I saw this as a great opportunity that way, because I have seen what this program has been in my tenure at Mississippi State, where they were kicking our butt for a while. And, I think there's all the right things in place, the right people, the right resources, facilities, you name it, to get this program back to where it's been very recently.
I know it's talent, but what was the key to the build at Mississippi State? Because that was an impressive build over the course of turning it into a routine Sweet 16, Elite Eight type program. After that wasn't the case for a really, really long time. So, what are sort of the foundational builds to doing something like that?
So it starts with recruiting, and you have to put in the time and the effort to travel overseas and
Hmm.
really put in the work and develop relationships with these kids and their families and their coaches, because they have to build a trust in you to come 10,000 kilometers from home to put 4 years of their life in our hands and develop them first as people and second as elite athletes. And if we make that clear, then not only are they going to be trusting us and having fun, likewise I will be and my staff will be, but that trust and love will foster the absolute most improvement and development that you can possibly have. I'm an open book. I'm upfront. I'm honest as can be. And when you find players that want to be a part of that, the sky's the limit for the relationship that you build and the development that you can have. That was what I did, and we've done at Mississippi State the last 6 years. And
Hmm.
it led to getting good recruits. Yes, that people said, yes, those are good players. But then I think it's the year by year improvement of those individuals that really catch the eye of people and start having them follow how that's happening and why that's happening.
Is the process when you are recruiting international players, are they familiar with much minutia between the different SEC programs, or what this offers or this offers? I mean, are there many visits? So, I mean, how does that play out on where their knowledge base is and what it takes to sell them on you versus Texas, Texas A&M, Mississippi State, whoever it is?
That's $1 million question.
Okay. All
We
right.
had hours to talk. I could, but
Yeah.
really, you have to find a few things. What sets yourself a little bit apart? Because it's a privilege and a challenge to be in this conference, because it's the best of the best across the board.
Hmm.
Um, that's why I wanted this job, to be competing and be with those types of programs. But if you can control what you can control as best as possible, which, like I've mentioned, are a lot of the intangible pieces, instead of only talking about what a scholarship looks like, what NIL looks like, rankings, everything like that, and show them that you care about them and are going to be there putting your time and energy and effort into developing them, that's when you can get really good recruits. You can develop players into way more than they even thought they could become. And you can set yourself a little bit apart in the culture that you're building from these other programs that have equal or even more resource opportunities. You mentioned some of those schools by name.
I've got to assume though, it's like any other sport. It's word of mouth, it's reputation, and it's also you've got a lot of inroads in maybe some of the, whether it be the academies or schools or even geographic areas that you're recruiting over there. I mean, I would assume you have sort of some nucleuses when it comes to those things.
Definitely, absolutely. In the last couple of years, I've had some certain countries and regions of Europe that we've had a lot of success with. And you're right,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Word of mouth is huge. If you have a good relationship and are helping develop a couple guys on your team from, let's say, Eastern Europe, well, they're going to tell their friends, if you're interested in college tennis, you should come here. Or likewise, if you don't, and you
Yeah.
don't put in the effort and there's not a lot of improvement, you might kiss that pipeline goodbye for a couple of years. But been lucky to have nothing but amazing people and players that I've worked with. But again, that does start in the recruiting process. And so there's a lot of pipelines open. Obviously, we've two of the three newcomers are from Italy, so we've
Yeah.
hit that pipeline nicely. And then Serbia and Eastern Europe, I've had a nice rapport with as well, with families, players, and coaches in those parts of the world.
In Italy, not a place that Ole Miss has had a ton of players in the past. I mean, a little bit more Sweden based in some of that
Yes.
area versus Italy with the program. I noticed that when I was seeing who you had brought in, and it looks like a pretty good class. I see the social media post about maybe the most improved team in college tennis, though that was going around here in the last week or 10 days. But when you look at it, and this is me being a somewhat of a novice when it comes to tennis, but I see these UTRs and universal tennis rating for everybody,
Yeah.
really strong numbers. I mean, it does look like a trio that is very capable inside this conference.
Hope so, Chase. It's yet to be
Yeah,
seen. But recruited them, went to see them, did home visits with them, did more than my fair share of calls, communication, and seeing them compete and practice. And really do believe that they can help this team a lot. I think all of them can contribute right away in the lineup. I think a lot of them are also going to be great culture additions to the team. Not that we have bad people on the team now at all, but um, I think that's another piece, an intangible I've mentioned that is so important to me when I recruit and look at players to bring into the program. Do they fit the mantra of what our identity is going to be? Are they an elite athlete that wants to work hard? If you check those two boxes, I'm going after you with everything I've got. And this is going to be a great program for those types of people.
you mentioned resources, people caring about the program here, and I've heard some things myself. But what is sort of the transfer portal NIL part of the era we're in, just in college sports? How has that impacted college tennis versus the prior?
Man, it's a lot of if you're a have versus a have not.
Okay,
The SEC, for the most part, is a bunch of haves. And a lot of these programs that are really strong mid majors are the ones that are sometimes feeling the pinch right now because
sure.
when they develop a great player for a year or two, they love their situation there, but they might hear that, oh, this, my friend over here is getting this. So I'm naturally interested in that. And, hopefully, Chase, the House settlement has sort of calmed that a little bit, especially
Okay.
in our Olympic non-revenue sport type of world and with F1 student visa for international students type of things. Because it really should be about going to the program you believe in the most and the coaches you believe in the most. Because at the end of the day, that's a priceless item. That's a priceless experience. That it shouldn't come down to only the almighty dollar. But yes, there's been way more players in the transfer portal than ever by exponential amounts. And if you aren't at least getting some type of support with, fundraising resources or NIL, it is tough to continue to compete.
In a layman's term, there, explain the F1 visa thing you just mentioned. I don't know what that means.
So international kids, which our team is 9 out of 10, our only American is very close to home. He's from Oxford, which is
Yes.
great.
Yeah.
But there's limitations to what you can and can't receive monetary wise as an F1 international student. You can't be an employee. You can't make revenue because you're only allowed entry into the country to be a degree seeking student. So to not get too much into the legality and the law terms of it, basically, there's a lot of limitations to how much money you can receive now with the House settlement passing. And we're going to comply with all those rules, of course.
Yeah, I remember it from a few years ago. We were trying to do sort of a podcast NIL thing with one of the women's golfers, and because she was from international, it was not doable in
Okay.
the same way that an American would be. And I remember a Kentucky basketball player went overseas to his home country and was able to receive all sorts of stuff while they were
Yep.
on that trip. And then when he came back, obviously not, but you could maximize it while the trip was going on.
You're right. There, we've looked in a lot of creative ways. That's true. There's even a player to mention Kentucky basketball. I think he even changed his visa from an F1 to an O1 because he was so. I can't remember who it is. I think he was. I can't remember what country he's from. But if you're like a super high profile athlete with a certain amount of followers, you can become a pro athlete,
Okay.
student here. But that basketball at Kentucky is a little bigger than the men's tennis program here. Although we're going to try to get there.
Do you see? I mean, like it is. There's the potential in today's world, though, to progress very quickly to get back on footing. I guess during this process, I mean, you are familiar with how big this has been. I mean, it used to kind of be the top, non-revenue sport, if you will, or whatnot, inside the campus. I mean, do you feel like you have sensed the energy that once the program is at that point, the people and those interests can return in the same way?
Absolutely. I've been blown away by the tennis community of Oxford. You've got the Goose Creek Club, you got
Hmm.
Oxford Country Club, and it's amazing to see the support I've already received. I've been reached out to by Billy Chadwick and a lot of
Hmm.
other big names that are within the athletic department, used to be within, or even just part of the Oxford community that are really excited about what can be done here. And it's also another piece that's very exciting for me is the fact that Grant is now the new women's head coach. And, Mark Byers did a great job here for decades. And to have kind of an influx of younger, newer blood, we were talking the other day, we probably might be the two most
Yeah.
the youngest coaching staffs in the SEC or even the country. And I think it's a cool rejuvenation of energy that's only going to yield positives.
Were you a tennis racket since you were 2 months old kind of guy? Did you get in a little later? Or how did it come about when you were young?
Little later, I started when I was 8 or 9. Honestly, it was that in golf for me. I played
Okay.
high level until I was 12, 13 years old in golf and tennis. And to be quite frank, I hated practicing golf and loved everything about tennis because golf requires patience. At the age of 12, I did not have much of that. So I loved chasing the yellow ball as opposed to waiting on others hitting the little white ball.
Weren't you all state in soccer too?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Wow,
All
you
right. All
you
right.
really
All right.
looked into it. Okay. Yeah, I
I
was a goalkeeper. Even had a little D3 offer to play goalkeeper in
okay.
college. But I think it's useful to play a lot of sports and not specialize too early just because it
Hmm.
gives me a perspective on, tennis being an individual sport and golf. I love that I played high school soccer because that's a team. And so I've been able to combine those two trains of thought into trying to be the best coach and mentor for these young men that I can be.
When did you sort of completely give up golf competitively, if you will?
About 13.
Okay.
Played the U.S. Kids National Championship type of thing, and then really wanted to go gung ho into tennis as best I can, and best decision I've ever made.
You still enjoy it casually, though. You're telling me you're still in.
Absolutely, I'll play the club
Okay.
championship every year, and I'll get out there and I'll kick some butt. Don't worry, but
Are you already challenging Malloy, saying how y'all do out there and
I
get
need I
going?
need to. He doesn't get to
Well,
play enough.
fix it. He complains all the time because he's like, he'll do this thing where I'm like, hey, have you played much? I've played 3 times this year. I was like, okay, and he goes, yeah, I've played Augusta and Pine Valley. I'm like, shut up, you're waiting on me to ask just for you to go there next. That's what was coming when we're having the conversation. He still puts the lights out though. He's still gonna
I'm
hit it
sure.
down there, and then he's gonna put the lights out, and he's
I'm sure.
he's
I
uh
can
he,
imagine.
he's yeah he's ready to go. Um, when you're coming out of Iowa, pretty good career from a college standpoint. Was it coaching immediately? Where did sort of your head go from what's next, and how early did you think, hey, I want to move into that sector of the sport?
I would play those kind of satellite entry level pro events every summer, and I had some success. But by my senior spring, I really decided college tennis was what I loved, and that time you only get 4 years of eligibility. I feel like nowadays everyone can find 100 years of eligibility,
Yeah.
but um, you know the only way to stay in it at that point was to coach. And I realized that relationships are so important to me, and showing how much I can give to these young men to reach their potential was something I became very passionate about. And so that spring in the Big Ten, I would go up after every match we played and introduce myself to the head coach, try to network that way. And it really helped me quickly
Hmm.
get into the opportunity here in the SEC. And then, before the age of 30, be here in Oxford.
You've been able to mostly stay in the South. Has that been nice for just the pace of everything, the food? Is I mean, I know you're not choosing schools necessarily because of the South, but has that been nice to somewhat stay in your home region for the most part?
Sure. My parents love it. They can come to every match.
Okay.
They're still in Little Rock, Arkansas. They're all about college tennis, but it is definitely nice. Starkville to Oxford, just the town size is so. I mean, I can't think of a town that's similar sized. It's a very different type of town. Don't get me wrong, but being in the same state, I know how to recruit to this state. I know how to make relationships in this state, and how the pace, like you said, of the state and these towns work is something I love to be a part of. And you know, it's different than Charlotte, where I was for a year, which is one of the fastest growing cities in the country. But to your point, it's still kind of the same weather and the same type of people.
I know I'm making a very general comment when I say this, but international players, recruits who are coming into these things, what are sort of what are the emphasis for you from an Oxford Ole Miss standpoint? I mean, what's going to by and large appeal to them by this campus and atmosphere in town and whatnot?
I think probably the biggest strength, and I'm still learning. It's only month like 3 for me here.
Sure.
The biggest strengths are there's not a lot of negative distractions to what your goals are if you come here. I'm trying to recruit great people that are trying to be the best professional tennis players they can be, but also enjoy their experience. And you've got amazing people in the athletic department. You've got professors that'll work with you as long as you're keeping up with your work to go achieve your dreams and your goals on the tennis court. You have an amazing atmosphere of professional athletes and Olympians in so many different sports here. The past couple of years, Keith has talked to me a lot about how almost every program is making the NCAA tournament, and I know what he's passively aggressively saying the last couple of
Yes.
years.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
I'm here, and it's cool for these young men from around the world to experience other professional level athletes in so many different sports, and learn from them that way too. So, to see success at such a broad level here is really inspiring to be around, and I think that's a great success that Oxford has.
Yeah, he's telling you those Learfield Cups don't just rank themselves. Need all the points he can get when he's chasing those top 25s and top 20s
Yep.
for those things. I mean, already a disadvantage anyway because you don't play all the sports, so they need every
Right.
sport to accumulate
Right.
in some capacity. There, you mentioned that it's a year-round sport from a playing standpoint. I mean, you've been gone all summer. You've been recruiting internationally, and when else is sort of that calendar? I mean, what are the hotbed times of the year? How do you sort of fit recruiting in once things get going in August all the way to when they finish, hopefully late in the spring and early summer for you guys?
Yeah. So summer's a big time just because there's so many tournaments, and the whole world is not in school. But around the U.S. Open, there's juniors U.S. Open. There's a couple big tournaments in the United States that are a little bit easier to recruit to, just because it's not quite the journey that you have to
Mm-hmm.
make. And then the winter break, there's a couple big tournaments in Mexico and in Florida that a lot of coaches and good international players play, that we try to go to as well, so that I'm able to pour in everything energy and effort wise into the current 10 guys we have. But you have to plan for the future, and not just for next year, but 2 years down the road, and manage your roster with freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors to have sustained success, instead of just, oh, we're top 20 and then we drop back into the 50s, and these wild swings of bringing in huge classes and then sometimes not bringing in anybody because of where we are. So you have to manage all that, but summer, periodically in the fall, and then in December. But really, the spring is gung ho, all about the team.
It's not a new thing that most highly competitive college tennis programs are pretty international heavy. That's been going on forever, or at least for a really, really long time. But the state of U.S. tennis, especially in specialization that's going on with every sport right now. I mean, you look even here locally, and you've got, and in Oxford, you have how many ever kids trying out for baseball and they quit all the other sports and all these different things. Has that been even more of a decline in some ways? Do you see areas that are having upticks in American tennis? How do you sort of just rate the youth sport in the United States at this point?
I think you can be so good at whatever you want to be in this country, and we're doing it from a sports lens right now. That, to your point, literally you can be a professional athlete in 30 different sports here.
Hmm.
And I think the last 10 years there's been a slow decline in tennis, but I think the last year or two there's been a little bit of an uptick because we've had more success on the international and professional level
Okay.
with guys like Tommy Paul, Ben Shelton. Ben Shelton played at Florida for his dad and is now his
Hmm.
coach. He's the highest or second highest ranked American in the world, and he's really fun to watch again. And so when you compare eras to, like, about 30, 40 years ago, when you had McEnroe, you had more recently Agassi, Sampras, Courier, I could go on and on, Connors. That was the most exciting time for American tennis, and tennis was arguably a top 3 sport in the country at that time. And it's fallen a little bit from there, but there's a lot of optimism right now because there's some young mid 20-year-old guys that are top 20 in the world and showing the country again that we can be the best at every sport that we play.
You do think there's a correlation between professional tennis in the country and the
What
viewing
you
and
see
the
on TV,
situation?
if
Yeah.
you can see it on TV and there's success there and there's excitement there, kids want to try that and they want to be that.
Because for a
And
long time, it was sort of
pickleball stuff too. Pickleball and I have an interesting
okay.
relationship.
Yeah, well, your athletics director too, apparently now. So he's getting all banged up and falling over and
Yep.
getting handicaps off of it. So it's
I
where
told him just play the real sport, not the little brother.
it feels like anybody with tennis acumen. It might take like one time on the pickleball court and they're a little confused, and like by the second or third, they just start dominating. That's kind of my history with it that I have seen to this point.
It's almost the score is the hardest part to understand, but then once you do it, yeah, you can get pretty aggressive in there.
Yeah, because it bounces straight up, so that's a little different than the top spin or whatever. You got to kind of get
Yep.
over the top of it, and then I realized once better athletes figure it out, you're kind of done at that point if you're trying to play with them. But to your point, no, I mean Shelton's a good example because for years during that decline from a college tennis standpoint, it was really just Isner, and he's so different than everybody else. It's hard to really make as much of a comparison or relatability there. So having, I mean, obviously exceptional athletes, but having a little different variety and some extra numbers probably should help in that way, I would think.
Absolutely. Right now, we have the most players as a country inside the top 20, and it hasn't been that way for decades. So it is an exciting time. And you're right. John Isner was a little lit. Nothing against the Georgia Bulldogs, but he was a little bit boring to watch with just a serve and then nothing else really. So
And just sheer size. I
yeah,
mean,
it's just
I do remember watching him here when they would play Ole Miss back in the day. That I mean, that's kind of one of the top 2 or 3 matches that stick out in my
sure.
head from when I was either a student or a young professional at the time. I forget which one, but either where in that. So you guys start pretty soon. You got some, like I said, individual stuff. You get the guys back for practice. For fans listening that have again cared about tennis for a long time, what's the best way to help you guys out? What's the deal for them?
So we're going to start a more kind of organized kind of booster club that's going to
Okay.
help a little bit, yes, financially, but honestly, more importantly, I want butts and seats here. I want our guys to feel the love and the care from the community, and they're going to give that back to the people that show up and support us and, just come to our matches and understand that college tennis is really fun to watch.
Hmm.
And I think that a lot of people don't know that because they think tennis is an individual sport, and this is the only time that it's a team sport with way more energy. There's fan involvement, there's
It's
arguments,
not
there's
quiet. They don't get that. So many fans have never been go,
correct.
hey, it's going to be a snooze fest. It's like, no, you're clapping and cheering and doing stuff, and it's full of it. So it's
Correct. It's way not quiet. It's the opposite
and
of
you can
that.
be
So
close. It's the literal closest sport to the action too. I think
yep.
that's something that probably doesn't get talked about enough. Is you can be right on top of it from
It's
you
really
know.
intimate that way. Yeah. And you can join in the chants that we do, like things like that. We're going to have our guys after every match go quickly to the stands and meet the people that are at the match. So you'll get to know our players on a personal level instead of just that's the guy with the big serve. You get to know why he came here from the Alps in Italy. You can understand why he's here from small town France, whatever it is. It's really cool to have that relationship.
Yeah. Well, hey, Jake, I really appreciate it. Good luck as you kind of get started, and then once the matches get going, let's do it again.
Awesome. Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
Chase. Appreciate having me on.